Hey guys, Sam Hack here. So I've been seeing a lot of comments lately asking something along the lines of, alright, I'm level 70, now what? So this video is going to go over a bunch of the things you can do now that you've hit level 70, or what you can do once you hit 70 if you're still working on getting there in the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch. I'll briefly go over each of the things that I think that are worth doing, and then provide links in the description for those who want to learn more in depth about particular options. Each section is timestamped, so feel free to skip around to the sections that matter the most to you. First up, I think one of the first things you do when you hit 70, if you haven't already, is pick if you want to be aligned with Aldor or the SCRYERS, the two main factions of SHA'TARI. There's a quest in SHA'TARI, which, by the way, you probably want to put your hearth here since all the portals in major cities are here, called City of Light. It makes you follow Khadgar's servant around, and at the end choose a faction. Heads up, this is a long quest, taking about 9 minutes active to complete. The Aldor are Draenei based and will give you access to the Aldor sections of the city, and the Scryers are Blood Elf based and give you access to the Scryer portions of the city. Each faction will give you access to specific flight paths outside of the city, unique items, shoulder enchants, crafting recipes, and a tabard. You can probably Google something like Enhanced Shaman, Aldor Scryer, or whatever your spec is, and find out which is best for you, but honestly this close to Wrath, they're usually very close in power to each other, and depending on how dedicated you are to farming this rep before then, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. Maybe it matters a little bit more if you're trying for certain crafting recipes, or really want a specific tabard. One thing to note is when you do quest for one of these factions, you lose rep with the other. The quests usually denote this in their text, so be careful. Links in the description to see what rewards are available to you for each one. Next up, I would say go buy all of the easy gear from the reps you've already gotten honored. If your gear is garbage, which it probably is if you just hit 70, you can easily buy weapons and gear with gem slots and set bonuses from all the various reps, if you've gotten to at least honored. If you aren't quite 70 yet, try to focus on the quest givers that actually give you rep, since many, usually the goblins, give no rep with anyone. Reps like Honor Hold, Cenarian Expedition, Lower City, and so on, that you probably got at least a few of them honored along the way, make it very easy to attain reasonable gear without any RNG. Next is super simple. Inscription is available now, which means glyphs are available. Not all are available until Wrath of the Lich King fully releases, but something is better than nothing. The glyph tab is now added to your talent tab. Press N if you haven't changed your keybinds, and buy some glyphs off the auction house and pop them in there. If you have the gold for it, you can now learn dual talent specialization for 1,000 gold at your class trainer. So if you've been suffering along as a healer trying to quest or farm alone, you can now pick a DPS spec for the times when you're solo. Next is kind of a mix of a lot of different things that all stem from one thing, and that's rep grinding. Many of them do not take very long to at least hit honored, especially once you hit 70 and can whiz through the quests, but they're super important from almost anything you want to do. You can get rep through quests, turn-ins, and dungeons, and I've linked the rewards available for each one in the description. If you want to be super efficient about it, there are guides available for maximizing each rep on YouTube and Wellhead, but you have to check for those yourself. If you're a crafter, you need recipes from pretty much every rep. Some will be more interesting to you, like the Consortium, which has lots of jewel crafting recipes. If you want mounts, rep. If you want gear, weapons, shoulder, enchants, crafting recipes, keys to unlock heroic dungeons, like this Lower City kit here to unlock heroic Alk, or tabards, you will need, you guessed it, rep. TBC was a very rep-heavy expansion, but had a lot of interesting rewards for you once you completed it. Once you've gotten a couple of reps to honor to buy some gear, or gotten a little bit of gear from doing quests, the next level of importance I'd say is to grind battlegrounds. But wait, I hate PvP, you say? But hold on just a second. Even if you hate PvP, you're going to want to hear this. Blizzard has significantly reduced the price of the Brutal PvP gear set, which is a really powerful set and it will last you well into Wrath. Farming raids and dungeons, with the exceptions of the Badges of Justice, are usually an RNG way to get gear, and raids usually require you to buy with GDKP, so it will probably be difficult for you to get nearly as geared, nearly as quickly through these methods as you could with PvP. Brutal gear is guaranteed, you just have to farm honor. And if you happen to be a bit antisocial or worried about not knowing what to do in raids or dungeons, joining an Aldor Valley match is going to be super frictionless for you. Capture the towers along the way, follow your teammates' dots to the end of the map, and kill the big boss guy when your raid yells all in. Simple. It is extremely easy to farm honor right now through Aldor Valley. Almost all matches are over within 10 minutes and usually grant 7 to 1,000 honor per win, and around 500 for a loss. The best part is for people with poor gear or who generally dislike PvP. There's usually zero PvP that goes on in these matches. Both teams almost always run directly to the final boss and kill it. It is basically a PvE raid race. For those of you who enjoy PvP or want a little more variety, you do have the options of trying to join some pre-mades and doing the daily Call to Arms quests, which are available at the SHA'TARI PvP sign-up. There is also weekend events which can be seen on your in-game calendar that give you increased honor gains in specific battlegrounds. I have not found this to be a good way to farm honor solo, as I lost every single non-AV battleground I joined, got camped in the graveyard, and received almost no honor because honor is very kill dependent, and nobody on my team could really manage to kill anyone ever. It ended up not being very fun and a horrible way to farm honor for me, but if you have better gear or a team to coordinate with, weekend events could be an option to farm honor for you. These next few are kind of interchangeable and relate to each other, so just do whatever makes the most sense for you. But I'd say finishing up leveling your professions is next on the list. Unlike in Retail WoW, where your professions level from the previous expansion don't carry over, meaning it didn't matter if you max them out, you will need to finish them in TBC to continue into Wrath. First aid, fishing, and cooking are included in this among all the normal professions like mining and inscription, which is a new profession that you can pick up now. Professions are a very important part of player power and money making in Wrath, and you're going to be very sad walking past all those mining nodes and herbs, having to go back to the old expansions to level that stuff up during Wrath when you could be doing Wrath stuff. There are farming routes and all kinds of guides available for efficiently leveling up professions, and I'll put one of them in the description. I'm kind of assuming you already have flying, since they added this in at level 60 when the pre-patch came out, but if you don't have that, go to your faction's main base in Hellfire and buy expert riding at the riding trader for 250 gold, less if you have rep, and a mount for 45 gold. If you already have the level 60 flying, the next hurdle is the fast flying, artisan riding, which is a whopping 5,000 gold, which is again less the more rep you have with it. And you'll have to get a new mount for 90 gold. Next up are dailies. There are a huge number of daily quests you can do that give you rep or gold, which will help you with both attaining enough gold for flying and achieving progress towards your rep grind. These appear as blue exclamation points on your map instead of the normal yellow, and are repeatable and in some cases random and change daily. You can find these quests in SHA'TARI and at most faction bases throughout each zone. You can only do 25 dailies a day, which seems like a lot, but it limits which reps you can make progress towards each day, and there's a lot of them. Cooking, fishing, PvP, and World PvP dailies are available to you, and you can also do normal and heroic dungeon dailies, which are available from the ethereal Netherstalker Madoon and Wind Trader Zareem in Lower City and change each day. If you do the heroic version, you get badges of justice, which I'll touch on later. I know I talked about rep already, but I think there are a couple that deserve their own sections, the first one being the Shattered Sun Offensive rep, which has the same types of rewards as other reps, but takes place on the Isle of Keldanas. That only opens up to you once you reach 70. This rep starts by taking the quest Duty Calls for SCRYERS, or Crisis at the Sunwell for Aldor, in the middle of SHA'TARI. You then take the portal right next to them to the Isle of Keldanas, which is back on Azeroth. The Dungeon Magister's Terrace is located here, as well as the raid Sunwell Plateau. You can complete a lot of daily quests here for rep and gold, and I mainly wanted to point it out for the people who did not know how to get to the Isle, that wanted to try out that dungeon or raid, but the rep rewards are also good. The SHA'TARI SKYGUARD is a rep that you start off with by accepting the quest Threat from Above near the flight path in SHA'TARI. They reward a very cool netherite mount, and they have lots of dailies to do, but again, you are limited to 25 a day, so pick which rep is most important to you. The main reason I wanted to mention it is that it rewards two very good trinkets, the Airman's Ribbon of Gallantry and the SKYGUARD Silver Cross, that while not the best for current content, will be super useful for leveling in Wrath when you're constantly killing targets that give experience. It's also not too bad of a rep grind and is easier by finding a group to grind with. You can of course go back and do any of the dungeons at this point on normal mode. The new group finder tool is available to you by pressing I, and you can choose your role and either list yourself in the Create Listing tab or browse other groups to join in the Group Browser tab. This does not teleport you to the dungeons, but it does make finding or making a group pretty easy. Some people may also mark their group with the Murloc icon to indicate they are welcoming to new players. Dungeons give rep to the corresponding faction and of course possibly give you some fat loot. Most dungeons also have mining and herb nodes in it. If you are an enchanter, you probably want to run some dungeons for chances at getting gear to disenchant. Check Wowhead to make sure you've picked up any quests that take place within the dungeon to maximize your rep and gold. For example, there are a lot of quests available to gain rep with Cenarian Expedition and Zangarmarsh for SP and Underbog, and it's the same for other dungeons as well. Since you are grouping with other people, you might even find some new friends or a new guild to play with if you had fun. It especially doesn't hurt to get to know some healers or tanks for when you want to run more dungeons or raids. The next step beyond normal dungeons is heroic dungeons. This will require you or someone in your group to have gotten honored with the corresponding faction to buy the key from the rep quartermaster to enter. Heroic dungeons are harder and require better gear and a better understanding of the mechanics to complete. It also rewards badges of justice, which can be used to purchase raid level gear from multiple vendors. I've popped a link in the description where you can check the vendor section for who sells what. Heroic dungeons are tougher versions of normal, and it is probably what you'll be working on instead of raids for PvE. So if you don't want your group to get mad at you, you may want to look up a quick overview of the dungeon before you pop in. This might sound like an odd section, but going back and questing and actually reading the quests in the zone you haven't completed yet is probably a great idea for you. On top of the already mentioned rep, many quests reward great gear if you start up on some chain quests, or upwards of 20 gold for completion for group quests that can usually be soloed once you hit 70. The higher level zones usually rewarding more gold. If you are an enchanter, this is also an easy way to get things to disenchant. Aside from rep and gold, it's my opinion that TBC had some really cool storylines that I think are definitely worth reading. I still laugh when doing a bunch of them, even though I've done them a million times. It is a game after all, and the quests can be really enjoyable. It felt like a time where Blizzard really put some thought into being funny or careful with their story. There are all kinds of Easter eggs in the NPCs' names, quest names, and just the objects in the environment. Feeding Tobias a rotten Arakoa egg, saving the idiot son Corky from being kidnapped for the 4th time, and Lump telling us he likes to eat broken children are all things that genuinely made me laugh. Through all this, you'll be making money, getting rep, and giving yourself less boring ways to farm your professions along the way. Everyone has different goals and time available to play, and there are plenty of guides out there on how to efficiently and boringly farm gold out there. But I wholeheartedly suggest actually enjoying the time you use to play a video game if you have the time to do so. Achievements and collection. Another thing you can do in the time before Wrath, and even after Wrath starts, is mount, pet, achievement, and tabard collection. The pre-patch introduced achievements which you can access with the Y key. You earn achievement points, which are kind of just something to show off, but you also earn tangible rewards like titles and mounts, such as the For the Alliance or For the Horde achievement that reward you with a Black Warbear mount for killing the opposing faction's leaders. This is usually pretty easy to achieve since, unfortunately, server balance isn't something that exists, and you can use the Looking for Group channel or the Group Finder tool to find a raid to easily do this. Mounts and pets are now much easier to collect because they no longer take up bag space. You just right-click them to learn, then they go poof away to your pet tab. I think one of the coolest mounts to work towards right now in TBC would be the Netherwing Drakes from the Netherwing Rep, located in Shadowmoon Valley. If you were hoping for Transmog to finally be a thing in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, it's unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, not going to be available. I think one of the easiest ways to combat a wonky looking set that you can't mog, or even just to tie together a nice set of gear, is a good tabard. Take a look at the available tabards from the reps in TBC and see if you like any of them. If you think you may be playing at least semi-seriously, or are not sure if you really want the class you're playing now, I would 100% recommend leveling up a second character. The 50% buff to experience will only last until Wrath drops, so if you think you might want an alt or a different main, now is the time to do it. At the very least, I would suggest making an alt Death Knight to have another character with professions to help you with gear, consumables, and gold for Wrath. DKs start at 55, so hitting 70 is a lot more attainable on them, and they also get their mount for free. If you truly have your mind set to it, you definitely can raid between now and when Wrath comes out. This is probably not the best use of your time if you just hit 70 and want to get prepared for Wrath, but I absolutely understand wanting to see the raids for the last time before we move on. Most people will be doing Sunwell Plateau, as that is the most recent raid phase, but there will also be people doing the other tiers. I put a link in the description for each of the available tiers of raids. Even if you manage to get into a raid, you probably will not see any loot, as most runs are at GDKP, meaning that you need to bid gold to receive an item, of which you can be outbid or pay to be carried through the raid. Your best bet is to try and join a guild and see if you can get in that way. One raid you probably will get to experience during the patch is Karazhan, as it becomes part of the pre-patch event, which I'll get to in the next section. This is the last time for real that you will get to experience the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch events. So while it is the last item on my list, I'd say it's the most pressing and time sensitive to enjoy while it's here. The actual event starts on September 6th and lasts up until Wrath releases on September 26th. On the 6th through the 13th is the Zombie Plague event. This is when the capital cities are going to be filled with Scourge, that are other players that will try to kill you, and then get to turn into a zombie with special abilities and try to kill the other players back. It's either really fun or really annoying depending on how you look at it, but it is a memorable event nonetheless. Be prepared to have a rough time auctioning things in the capital cities at this time. On the 13th, the zombies go away, but the Scourge Evasion event begins, in a bunch of locations up until launch. Defeating them gives a bunch of powerful and unique rewards, like the Arcanite Ripper, which is a play on Arcanite Reaper weapon from Classic, and a new pet bat that goes away when the event does. There are also new bosses added to various old world dungeons, and Necropolis will spawn in open world locations for you to kill for necrotic runes for loot in Light's Hope Chapel. If you're interested in these special rewards, I put a link in the description telling you what you can get from where, since it is quite an involved big event with a lot of ways to participate. I'd suggest reading about it so you don't miss out on the rewards you want. This is also where you would be able to do the Karazhan raid, as some of the items drop from a special new boss in there. That sums it up. While there's obviously way more things you can do between now and Wrath, I think this is a great start for ideas of things to do once you hit 70. If you're interested in getting even more in-depth videos for Wrath Classic, Willie, Toy House, and Jay are some other great classic content creators to check out. And of course, I would also like to keep making videos like this in the future. If you found this useful and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or other tips for people, please comment below and I'll do my best to answer for you. Good luck and fat loots!